Hey, welcome to another episode of Tech Talk. I am your host, Jeff Hootselle, the Chief Cloud Officer with Auditmacs. As you guys know, Tech Talk is a show we talk to IT leaders and subject matter experts in the field of technology. We'll talk about interesting things that are happening in the world today, as well as kind of trends in the industry and how that's going to affect business in the coming years. We always have great guests. Today is no exception. Joining us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is Evan Nardone. Evan's the CTO with St Moritz Security Services. So Evan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Hey, so Evan, from the top, maybe tell folks just a little bit about your company and kind of what you do and what your mission is.
Sure. So St Moritz Security is a privately held physical security company. We've been in business for about 50 years, started as a small regional security provider, and now we've kind of grown to one of the top 10 security providers in the country with a national footprint, with a goal of providing high-level customer service while also providing safe and secure environments for a range of customers and everything from warehouses and logistics all the way through your business campuses and schools.
So safe and secure, that's kind of the words of the day, right? And everything we're going through right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I know you guys are starting to focus on now as states are starting to reopen, people are trying to get back that semblance of getting back to normal, or at least whatever the new normal looks like. Talk a little bit about how your organization is helping support that, both from a technical standpoint and from the services you guys provide.
Of course. So in a lot of the buildings and areas where we operate, we provide some sort of access control or protection in that environment, whether it's with a manned security officer or through surveillance and alarm response and things of those natures. But as we have people returning back to work who haven't been in the building for weeks or months in some instances, we have to try to find ways to make sure that those people are safe as they're returning to work. Some of the ways that we're helping our clients do that is through things like thermal scanning and health scanning. So in some cases, it's a trained security officer who's wearing all the proper PPE, and they typically have a device where they can scan incoming temperatures. FLIR is a great partner of ours, as well as a couple of others that we use that allow that security officer to scan everyone as they come in to make sure that they don't have temperatures and are feeling well. Sometimes they'll fill out a questionnaire and we'll log that. That's one way that we're doing it, but then we're also seeing a big push for more touchless solutions. How can we make sure that people are not only safe entering the building, but then aren't putting themselves at risk in the scanning process, or aren't putting St. Moritz employees at risk in that scanning process? So we'll utilize some things like some standalone thermal scanners. We can even recognition or other biometric scanning options for your access control system. So as someone comes in, they're able to stand in front of a podium or a wall-mounted unit that will then scan your temperature, scan your face, and then whatever kind of access control badge that you have, and then allow you entry or then deny you at that point. And some of the more advanced options can even trigger an alert to the security system as well as HR when someone is denied entry for a high temperature, and then we can bring in the maintenance crew to then thoroughly clean that unit before it returns to service.
That's really interesting. Yeah, it's the idea of doing that in kind of a touchless environment, doesn't expose, folks to potential risk, I think is really interesting. And I know you guys are talking about doing it in manufacturing facilities and things like that. So what about as far as we're talking about social distancing and being able to make sure people are wearing masks, that there's capacity concerns as far as, I know here in Florida, they're reopening some of the restaurants and they're saying, hey, 25% can come in. How do you guys kind of work in that environment, make sure people are following those guidelines as well?
Right. So it really kind of does depend on the situations that a lot of our clients have. I'm sure that a lot of your viewers saw recently that there was a horrific incident in Michigan where a security officer was shot because he asked someone to leave a store when they weren't wearing a mask. And then just yesterday, there was another incident where a security officer was attacked because he was escorting someone out of a store who wasn't wearing a mask. So tensions are obviously very high. We want to make sure that those types of situations are de-escalated and handled appropriately. But you do have people returning to the real world who haven't been outside in months, and they don't necessarily want to be told what to do or how to do it. So trying to manage that is very important to us in that de-escalation process. But then another thing that we try to do is, again, through some technology initiatives in some of our manufacturing clients, we can do things like set up 6-foot perimeters around certain equipments or certain points on the screen, so that we know if the employees are getting too close together. We know how often someone breaks that 6-foot barrier. We can also set people counts on certain floors or at certain entrances, so we know if the limit is set to, let's just say, 25 people in the store, that after that 25th person enters, that access control is now closed until someone leaves the facility. So instead of having to post a security officer at the door, we can now manage all of that electronically through some of the really great AI at the edge through some of these camera analytics.
Yeah, it makes sense. It kind of diffuses that potential conflict, I think, there as well. So as you're looking forward now and you're thinking out the next few years, in the physical security space, what do you think that looks like? As we're looking a year, 2, 3 years down the road, how are things going to change versus what they have been used to in the past?
Right. Well, and that's kind of been my mission since coming on at St. Moritz, is to take this 50-year-old physical security company and look forward to the future. So us and many of our competitors have already been in the space of remote guarding. But what we've seen since a lot of the shutdowns is that move has increased quite a bit from manned guarding to remote guarding. And what that means is taking your typical physical security post, where you have a security officer at the front door or at the gate to your gated community who lets people in, and replacing that officer with a virtual solution where, through these edge analytics and through a lot of the technology that exists, pull that information back to our 24/7 security operations center here in Pittsburgh, and then be able to open that gate remotely, provide remote concierge services in the lobby of your building, and then also provide remote perimeter security. So instead of having that security officer who walks the perimeter or walks through every floor of your building, we'll set up the analytic cameras so that we know if someone crosses this line or if we have motion in an area that should be closed after a certain time. That's much more cost effective for our customers. We're able to offer much more coverage at a lower rate as opposed to man guarding. It's also safer. You don't have to worry about someone who isn't trained properly, who misses a step on their duties, or someone who falls asleep while they're on the overnight shift. The great thing about these analytic systems is that the AI doesn't fall asleep. So no matter what, you know that your facilities are going to be protected.
That's awesome. It's some really cool stuff. I mean, we definitely are thankful for folks like yourself that are around to help keep us safe, especially in these times. So I know you guys are going to be in high demand right now, but for folks that want to find out more about the company and connect with you guys, where do you suggest they go to learn a little bit more?
Well, you can go to our website, which is smssi.com. And on there, you can find descriptions of a lot of our different services, everything from your manned guarding to our armed escorts and our remote guarding technologies. But they can also reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I love to expand my network and answer any questions that anyone may have.
Yeah, that's awesome, Evan. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your perspective. It's great information, and like I said, definitely timely services to keep all those businesses safe out there. So thank you for all you do and for your company as well.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
All right. And thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Tech Talk. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Stay safe.